Alright, you bastards, this is Some-Belgian-prepper, aka Guilty Prepper, and today I'm going to talk about 15 ways you can use soda cans as for survival situations. But before we start, if you're interested in detective stories, in the description will be a link to my first book called Bloody Crosses. It's in Dutch. If you're interested, take a look. So yeah, survival uses for soda cans. I'm going to say soda cans you can almost find everywhere in the world because people are trash and they're throwing away trash. But if you're in a survival situation, that could be a helpful thing because I'm going to show you 15 ways you can use soda cans for survival purposes. For the record, I'm talking about survival purposes when you only have a knife or a multi-tool and perhaps a few cordages that you made from nature. So we're not going to use specialized tools or duct tape, something that the only tool we're going to use is a knife and perhaps some cordage that you can get from in nature, like from the stinging nettle. By the way, look at my video on how to make a rope out of stinging nettle. So we got here a whole collection of things. We're going from one side to the other. First of all, I would say one of the best things if in a survival situation during a bug out, you're crashed with a plane or you're stranded somewhere and you find soda cans, you can do some things with it. So, for example, boiling water with it. Of course, if you can make a fire, you can boil some water in it, and that's why you have some purified water. So yeah, so this is a way I would do it. By the way, two things that I did to this can to make purifying water by boiling it more easier. First of all, if you see the lips around, I bended them on the inwards. So if you're going to drink from them, you don't cut your lips to the sharp edges that you made with your multi-tool. That's good because otherwise infection could be a bitch in a survival situation. And another thing is if you're going to put it on the fire, you could make a lip where you can take it off if you don't have a full glove, but if you have something like your clothing or something's very small, you can grip it with it, or in this case with a multi-tool that you do not have to take the whole can. You can take it off like this, or of course you can take it like this, but the problem with that is if you have a fire or boiling water, it's going up, and if you do it like this with a multi-tool, you could get some nasty splashes and burning wounds on your fingers. So that way, that's the reason why I always would prefer to grab it like this and be very careful about taking it away. But there's less chance that you will splash water, hot boiling water on top of your fingers and your hands. Another way to purify water, this is actually number 2, is how to desalinate water. Because if you have salt water and you just boil it in a container like this, yeah, there's still salt in it. So you have to find a way to use the cans to desalinate water, and that's this way. I made this. I showed this how this works in a video already. So what you do is you take 2 cans. The first can you fill up with seawater or salt water, and you put it on top of a fire. So this will start to boil. And what we do next is you take another can, put it on top of it, and you put it on top of it in an angle. So what will happen? You put this on top of a fire, or you use another can, which we'll show in a minute, as a hobo stove. What will happen is you boil the water in the salt water in this can. It will start to evaporate. It will start to condensate on top of the can, and it will start to go down and leak out in front. And so you can use another can to catch it in that way. And that way you have the condensation is water without the salt. So that way you have a way to desalinate seawater or any other salt water that you have with just 2 cans. So yeah, it will take some time, but any water that you get when there is only seawater left, yeah, that's a way to survive a little bit longer. We're going to the next thing. Yeah, let's go from right to right. So if you are building a shelter or you need to dig up a latrine, yeah, it could be a little bit annoying to do it with your hands, because if there's something sharp in the dirt, yeah, you could cut your hands, and that's not really good with the dirt. So what you can do is like this: make a scoop, so you can scoop some dirt away like that for building shelter, making a latrine, or digging a fire pit. That way, it's a little bit more handier to scoop it away rather than using your bare hands. Let's hold this for later on. Another thing you can do is, of course, making a hobo stove. It could be in several ways, but this is just the most basic way. What you do is you cut a little piece out of the can. You can put some small sticks in top of it, and it will start to burn, and it will be collected inside of the tube that you cut off on the top, and that way you can put some how do you say this, some container on top of it. But if you're going to do it this way, you got to make some more holes that the smoke can get away and will not damping out the fire that way. So if you want to cook something on top of it, like meat or something else, you can just put it right on top, and you have a very small stove, and it will be a little bit less visible than making a big fire. So it could be used in a more stealthy situation if you use it in a rocket stove kind of scenario. But yeah, what you certainly should not do is close off the top by using it in this way. So yeah, because otherwise, yeah, you can cook something on top of it, but you have the risk that the fire will go out by its own monoxide and CO2. Next thing is this is a way how I would transport things that needs to stay dry. So what do I mean by that? This is just a regular can that you can just open on top of it, and if you have something that needs to stay dry, like Kindle or Tyndall, or some piece of gear like a lighter or anything that needs to stay dry, you can cut off the top of the can. You squash the top of the can closed, and you twist it like a dry bag, close like that, and that way water will not be able, or not that easily be able to get inside of the can with the stuff that you want to keep dry. So that's also perhaps a good way to use it as a water container. If you do not have a water container but you still need to carry on, you can put water in it, close it off, and perhaps multiple times so it's a little bit more water closed, and keep it to you that way. And that way you have literally a handful of water to survive a little bit further. So next thing is you can use the lips. There are several ways you can use the lips. One of the ways, of course, is using it as a fishing hook. So if you have a lip, you cut off a little piece of the lip, and that way you can use some rope or something to use as a fishing line, and that way you have an improvised fishing hook. It will be very difficult to catch fish that way, but if the need arises, you will be able to set out a few lines, perhaps, if you find a few cans with some lips, and hopefully you will be lucky. Another way to use the lips is by making shelter. If you have some rope cordage from stinging nettles or something, you can use these lips to put cordage around it, through it, and use it to make some of the cordage for a shelter a little bit more tighter or more adjustable with this way. It's like one of those carabine hooks that you can use it that way. So a lip could be a very useful tool, and in a way you can, if you can cut enough of this, you can use it as an improvised needle. So you can use it to close off if you have some cordage or some rope, to use it as a needle if you cut enough of it away. But be very careful, because these things could be sharp while doing that, so it's very riskful that way. Other way, yeah, I should have begin with this, but if you want to boil water in a can without burning your hands, you can do it like this. Just poke 2 holes on the side, put a stick through it, put it on the fire, water will boil, it will be purified, and you can just take it off like that and perhaps drink it that way if it's a little bit more cooled down. But yeah, that's another way to do it. Another thing is, yeah, let's do this, is making tools. So one of the lips, these things are usually very sharp, or if you have some rocks or sands, you can sharpen them. But you can take something like a stick or a twig, split it, put the sharp thing between it like an prehistoric axe to bind off the top, and now you can use it to cut something, or if you have a big piece enough of metal, you can gently hack something a little bit open, or you can use it to scrape something, like if you got some pelts from a successful hunt, could be used that way. So yeah, just some handmade prehistoric tools could also always be useful with a sharp end. Next thing is, if you have a candle, you can use it as a lantern. So what you do is, you can make a lantern by cutting it in the middle open, make some cuts to the sides, split this open, and now you can use the can that you can put the candle into the can, and when the candle is burning, it will start to reflect more light from the polished insides, and that way you have from one candle you have more light. Or you can, if you have a way to hold it up, you have a way to use it as a small lantern if you're going into a building, for example. But be careful, because if you're going to hold it on top, it will be very hot, so hold it more to the below and use it as an improvised lantern to look around, or just when you're settling camp, use it that way as an improvised lantern. Another thing, I know this will sound weird, but you can use a soda can as a hunting weapon. There are some techniques where you can use rocks to hunt flocks of birds, and if you have a good arm, fill this up with something like water or dirt or stones. I would not advise stones, because those could rattle and it could alert the flock and they will go away. If you have a flock of birds, or if you have a solitary bird close by, you can fill this up with water or dirt, and if you have good aim, throw it at it. If you hit it, it will have enough force to knock out the bird, and that way you can gain some some small game that way. But yeah, it's a little bit difficult to do, but if you have nothing else, this will be a good way to hunt for some extra calories in survival situation. Next thing is, if you cut it open, you can use it as a baking plate. So put this on top of a fire, on the side, a little bit more to the side perhaps, so that it will guide more warmth through the metal, or on top of it. But if you have something like coals, could be useful, and that way you can bake some meat or some plants on top of it, something solid. So if you want to bake something solid, so to say. And another benefit is, if you do it like this, and there is some fat or some oils coming from the meat, it will start to collect on the inside, on top of the metal, and that way it will bake even better. So if you, for example, if you have some small game and you cook it or bake it on top of on a fire by holding it with a stick or something, the fat will fall into the fire and it will be lost. But if fat will be collected, it will be used to boil it, to cook it or bake it, and that way you have the fat inside of the meat, that you have more benefits of the calories. Another thing you can do is use a soda can for a signaling rescue party. So if you have the sun, you can just cut it off and do it like that. But in this way, you have the most benefits of the surface that could be reflected to signal to a search party. So yeah, as a signaling mirror, could be used that way. Next thing we're going to take is a little bit gentle. This is now an improvised oil lamp. So I filled this up with oil, some old olive oil that I had left over. I put a piece of cotton on top of it, and yeah, let's try it out. And it can be used that way to use as an improvised oil lamp. As you can see, because this is filled with oil, there is a wick going down. It will absorb the oil, and when the candle burns, it will suck out the oils and use it as a candle that way. As you can see, it works very fine. I will keep it here a little bit. We'll see how good it will burn. You can see it's a rather big flame, so it can also be used for not only for perhaps for warmth in a small area, but be careful for monoxide poisoning. Another thing is, but there is one downside, as you can see. I don't know if you can see it, but there is a lot of smoke. So like I said, poison monoxide poisoning is a danger with that. What you also can do is use it as a container, but I already told you about the container where you fold it. But if you can put something in top of the lid, so like a piece of wick or cotton, or perhaps an acorn or a pine cone, anything that can fit in a hole that you can close it off, you have, and that way you have more water than doing it the way with the folding up. But this will be more secure, but this will be, you have more water, but it will be, there will be more chance that it will fall out. Right. That's one of the other things. As you can see, the oil lamp is burning very well, and yeah, I will put it out because I'm in my veranda. So how do you say this? Gazebo? I don't know. The porch. I think the porch is the English name. So I will put it up for just for safety reasons. Next thing that you can do is, as you can see, this is just a regular can, but it has a rope attached to it. So if you have some barbed wire, fence or something, it's like they did in World War I and II. You you bind it to some wire or something else that an aggressor, robber, thief, or perhaps somebody who's trespassing could touch the wire. And I put a few screws in it, so when it's touching, it will start to make some noise. So you can do this as a way to, as an early detection system to put around your camp, your shelter, your bug-in scenario, to your fence, and that way if somebody touches it and moves it, then you get warned more easily. There are other ways you can do this. I will show you with this, the door. So what you can do is just put it, if you have a door, just put it on top of the door handle, as you can see, and if somebody tries to open the door even slightly, you will get warned. So this is a more efficient way if you're sleeping or going to take shelter inside of an abandoned building. The door handle is an easy way that you can improvise. It can as an alarm system. There are some other ways that you can do this. If I can turn this up, if you have some wire like this, what you can do is put it on top of the door. Take the wire like this, close the door, and the moment I will hold it because it's if it was a thicker, this is a very small wire, so it will drop immediately between the door slide. But if it's a thicker rope, it will be stuck between the door, and the moment you open it, it will fall on the other side. And somebody else would not be expecting it that way. So another thing is you can just take a few cans, fill them up with some junk, and you can put them in. You can station them somewhere in the hole. A few that if somebody is walking inside of it, and it will knock one of the cans out. It will also make some noise. So there are several ways to turn this into an alarm system. Yeah, I think we're almost ready. So there's one more thing that I would say you can use a soda can for, and that is actually to slow down an enemy force if they are coming around. So a way you can do a little bit of sabotage by cutting off the tops of the can, put the lids a little bit to the inside, so there's more metal concentrated. Why? If you bury this into the ground, and perhaps you can just show a little round disc on the onside. If enemy soldiers would see that in the road, they will immediately stop their vehicles, not go forward, and they will start to scan, and at least it will take at least half an hour to discover that there are only dummy mines made from soda cans into the road. So you can at least slow down the enemy force that way, and that's just a small trick that you can do during a war. So yeah, these were all the things you can do with soda cans. for survival. If you know any other, please let me know in the comments. I'm always eager to learn some new things and like to test them out. And these are the things that I know that they work and just can be done with a knife, a multi-tool or whatever. So yeah, there are probably more advanced techniques, but those are needed with more specialized tools or materials. So this is just some bushcraft if you found some trash from from civilization. So I would say thank you for watching. See you, like, subscribe, and see you in the next video. Cheers!